The streets of Jerusalem echoed with steps of hope. The newly born church pulsed like a living heart, each beat marked by fiery faith and generous giving. Men and women who once hid now walked with heads held high, sustained by the promise of the risen Christ. It was a time of miracles. People from distant lands converged, drawn by an invisible flame igniting hearts. Lives were transformed, the sick healed, and love spread like a mighty river that nothing could stop. The impossible seemed, at last, possible. But where light rises in brilliance, shadows also creep in. Among songs of faith and sincere offerings, there were glances seeking more than truth. Hidden desires waited patiently for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. It is on this stage of glory and tension that the story of Ananias and Sapphira emerges. A couple who dared to play with sacred fire, challenging the purity of a movement still in its infancy. Their fate is not just an ancient tale. It is a mirror reflecting warnings across centuries, reaching into our own time. Jerusalem burned with spiritual fervor. Each gathering of the disciples was like lightning cutting through the night, illuminating hearts and awakening crowds. The flame of the Holy Spirit didn't just touch, it consumed with intensity. Men sold their possessions, women offered their treasures, and together they built a community where no one went in need. The air vibrated with songs, and the ground seemed to tremble with prayers that pierced the heavens. It was a kingdom rising amid the dust of the streets. The church was not a building, but a living organism. Every embrace, every shared bread, every tear became an invisible stone of an eternal temple. The Spirit shaped lives like a patient potter molds clay. But when light shines so brilliantly, shadows grow sharper. Among pure hearts, there were also eyes longing for recognition, hands giving not only from love, but from a secret desire to be exalted. In the hearts of some, generosity was as pure as spring water. But in others, the act of giving carried an invisible weight, the desire to be remembered, to hear the whisper of admiration in the streets. Ambition disguised itself as devotion. Ananias and Sapphira watched the movement around them. Widows gave their little, elders surrendered entire inheritances, and all were honored and respected. The couple saw in this wave of faith an opportunity for recognition, rather than a chance for true worship. The dilemma was born in silence. They, too, had lands and wealth, and could have followed the example of the others. But within, a voice seduced them. It is possible to appear faithful without giving everything. It is possible to reap applause without planting truth. Thus, the seed of falsehood began to grow. The field of faith filled with golden wheat, yet among the stalks, a hidden weed began to sprout, soon revealing its venom before the entire assembly. Ananias and Sapphira decided to act in silence. The glow of recognition called like a distant fire, and the desire to seem more generous than they truly were ignited a dangerous flame. The plan was simple, yet carried a dark weight. They sold part of their property, but hid the true value. The appearance would be of total surrender, the gesture an image of perfect holiness. Inside, however, the lie coiled like a serpent, ready to strike at the wrong moment. While the crowd shared bread in prayers, the couple moved among them with calculated smiles. Every step, every word, every glance was choreographed to hide the moral crack growing silently. Tension between appearance and truth mounted. The Spirit, always vigilant, does not fail to perceive what the human eye cannot see. And so the stage was set, and the scene that would forever change the fate of Ananias and Sapphira approached, silent and inexorable. Peter, firm and piercing like lightning in the darkness, perceived what human eyes could not. The Spirit whispered secrets of hidden hearts, revealing intentions masked by rehearsed smiles. Truth approached like a sharp, cutting wind. Amid the assembly, Peter asked directly, "Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit? Why have you kept back part of the price for yourself?" The question thundered through the murmurs, reaching every soul present. Silence fell heavy, breaking the harmony of prayers. Every gaze turned to the couple, who now felt the weight of their own scheme collapse. The atmosphere seemed to condense into pure tension, like storm clouds ready to burst. And in that moment, the final decision drew near. The theater of the human heart, once shadowed and secret, now revealed itself before eternity, ready to unfold its relentless destiny. Ananias felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. The pride that guided him turned into a sharp, freezing weight as conscience screamed the truth he tried to hide. Every heartbeat seemed to herald the fall. Peter's words were like razor-sharp blades, cutting into the core of the couple. The lie sustaining them crumbled in silence, leaving only the emptiness of one who believed they could deceive the Spirit itself. The power of truth revealed itself absolute. His body trembled, and the shadow of death hovered over Ananias. There was no escape, no excuses, only the immediate consequence of an act that touched the divine while defying its purity. The sacred ground became judgment. And as the crowd watched, fear and awe spread like wildfire. The tension did not dissipate, but transformed into anticipation. The story was not over, and Sapphira's fate approached. Sapphira entered the room with hesitant steps, unaware that the storm had already struck her husband. The courage she thought she had crumbled as she heard the murmurs of the crowd and felt Peter's piercing gaze. The suspense was almost tangible. Peter called her, his voice cutting through time. "Tell me, did you sell the land for such a price?" The question, direct and unyielding, was an invitation to choose between lies and life. Each second stretched into eternity. She hesitated, rehearsing words that might save her pride and facade. But the Holy Spirit, invisible and penetrating, revealed every hidden intention, exposing the fragility of the human heart before the divine. Truth cannot be deceived. And so, Sapphira faced a choice that could no longer be reversed. The tension of the scene stretched on, holding every witness in a silent grip. The final reckoning was cruel and inevitable. The silence in the room was heavy, almost suffocating. Every breath seemed to echo like thunder, and all present felt they were witnessing something greater than they could comprehend. Divine justice manifested, deliberate and precise. Sapphira tried to mask her fear with rehearsed words, but each syllable sounded false under Peter's piercing gaze. The Holy Spirit revealed everything, making it clear that no lie could withstand the light of truth. The shock among the assembly was palpable. Every heart raced, sensing the magnitude of what was about to unfold. The tension wasn't just about Sapphira. It was a mirror for all, reflecting human fragility in the presence of the sacred. And so, inevitability approached. The decisive moment left no room for hesitation. The fall would be complete, and the church would learn a lesson etched in eternity. Sapphira succumbed to the truth she could no longer deny. The deceit that upheld her facade shattered in silence, and the weight of the lie crushed her like a rock falling upon stone. Every second stretched into eternity. The congregation was stunned. What once seemed distant and unlikely unfolded before their eyes. The power of the Holy Spirit not only exposes, but also judges, making clear that falsehood finds no shelter among those who walk in light. The impact resonated through every heart. Fear intertwined with reverence, reminding all that holiness is not merely an ideal, but a living force that balances grace with responsibility. And as Sapphira fell, the story prepared to reveal its final lesson. The storm was not yet over, and the church would grasp something that would echo through generations. The church was in absolute silence, as if the world had paused to witness the weight of truth. Every soul present felt the chill of justice and the intensity of holiness that cannot be deceived. The impact of what had occurred reverberated in every corner. Disciples and believers looked at one another, aware that the purity of the community depended on the transparency of hearts. Fear mingled with deep reflection on their own lives. The lessons seeped in silently, more powerful than any sermon. The memory of Ananias and Sapphira was not just a warning, it was an invitation to examine intentions, words, and actions before the divine. And as the crowd processed what they had just witnessed, a new question hung in the air. How would the church move forward under such an intense call to truth and courage? The answer loomed on the horizon, ready for the final unveiling. Silence turned into deep reverence. Every gaze reflected the gravity of what had been witnessed, and the church felt the weight of living in truth and integrity. The story of Ananias and Sapphira spanned generations in seconds. It was not merely about punishment, but about the holiness that protects the community and the flame of faith that cannot be manipulated. Every heart present was called to reflect. Honesty is not optional, and appearance can never replace essence. The lesson transcended time, echoing for all who seek to live authentically. And as the echo of judgment faded, the community breathed a renewed faith. Yet the story does not end here. It lives on in every choice of truth, courage, and devotion that arises in the world. The story of Ananias and Sapphira is not merely a distant account. It is a mirror reflecting our own hearts. Every choice, every hidden word, every act of appearance reveals the essence we carry before the divine. The early church learned that true faith is measured not by outward shine, but by a deep, silent commitment to truth. And we, centuries later, still face the same call: courage, integrity, and transparency. May this story inspire us to live authentically, to give without secrets, and to walk in a faith that transforms while demanding responsibility. The guiding light allows no disguised shadows. If this story moved you, like the video, share it with those seeking to live in truth, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring stories that stir the soul and awaken faith. The journey has only just begun. God bless your life.